All right, so welcome to the latest episode of Maximise Your Potential podcast with myself, Chris Baker, and tonight I'm very pleased and excited to introduce Vanessa Jane Patrick. Vanessa is a personality profiler, an international speaker, a group trainer, and a transformational coach who empowers individuals and teams to discover who they are, have the courage to live authentically, and to meaningfully contribute to the world through her online and offline seminars, programs, writing and daily videos. So Vanessa, I know you're the founder of the Limitless Potential Academy, and you describe that as a place where growth seekers come to get the support and experience they need to break through to their next level of potential. And you do that with monthly masterclasses and group coaching. But tell us, it's fascinating to me because it fits in perfectly with what I think and feel and what I want to do with the world too. So tell me a little bit and the listeners about your journey. You know, where did you come from? Where are you now? And what were some of the things you've experienced on the way?
Yeah, I'll make it. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, I was really grateful to be connected to you as well, Chris, because I know, the podcast called Maximise Your Potential. So very much in alignment. And, if I take it really back to, before I even knew what personal development was, I come from a very academic family. All my brothers and my dad, they're all engineers. I kind of grew up just knowing, I don't really have a choice here. I have to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. You know, my dad even took me over to Germany when I was 17 to meet a female engineer to kind of try and convince me that's my path. And
No way.
it's laughable to anybody who knows me because I'm like the opposite to the engineer, And, basically I went through school and just knowing nothing really clicked. I never really knew what I wanted to do. I could kind of just get by and get through and everything was fine, but there wasn't that standout for me like there were for, maybe other kids. And basically at the end of uni, I let one of my brothers pick my uni degree. I said, what should I do? He said, do business. I said, okay. I signed up for business and did a business degree. And by the end of that, still didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't feel good about what I was doing. And that's why I started kind of going, I deferred from uni. I went out into the workforce. I went and worked in the bank. I worked in mortgages and then the GFC hit. And then I was like, okay, I can see I can't really get further ahead here. Maybe it's time to go back to uni. And I thought, if I still don't want to know what I want to do, what's going to open up the most doors? So I signed up for a law degree. I had a year and a half left on that law degree when I met my now ex-partner, who had just started to get into the realm of personal development. And he said, have you ever heard of Tony Robbins? And I said, no, who's that? And he said, Google him, check out a video on YouTube or something. And look, I bought 2 tickets to go and see one of his events. And I had it in mind when I met my partner, I wanted to take her with me to this event. And I said, okay, I checked out one of Tony Robbins' videos online and I was like, whoa, what is this? This is kind of a cult or something. But I'm always try anything once, get into it. And I'm so grateful I did. I said yes, I went to that event and that was back in 2013. And basically threw myself into that event. And it was the very first time in my life I ever got to ask myself the question, why do I do what I do? Like, why am I on this path? Yeah. And, at this point in time, I got to the first Unleash the Power Within event. I signed up for Mastery University after that. It just blew my mind. And I didn't even have the money at that point to know how I was going to pay another $20,000 or something. I just knew I had to do it. And flash forward 3 months, I was at the next event, Date with Destiny. And in that event, it was right before it, I just had exams and I could barely get off the couch. It was like my body was just shutting down. It knew there was something, I wasn't on the right path, but I couldn't listen to that. And at this Date with Destiny event, basically, I was in the room. I'm in a room surrounded by 2,000 people. We're all answering the same questions. It's all about, you know, why we're on the path that we're on, and whose love did we crave the most, you know, when we were a kid, that determined who we were going to be as adults, you know. And I was in this inner conflict, you know, everybody's doing the work, we're all crazily going through it. And I have these two parts of me going off. And one of them is, what, like, you're not a lawyer. What are you doing? Like, you know, this is not you. This is not why you should be here. And then this other voice that was like, hang on, no, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to finish what you started. You're too old to make a change. And back then I was, you know, 24, 25. I think I just turned 25. And I was like, yeah, because you feel old when you go back to uni, when you've been out of it and they're all, you know, younger, right? And I'm thinking I'm too old to make a change. I have to finish what I started. I can figure it out later. And right in that precise moment, across the room, this woman leapt up from her seat and she was crying, you know, and she yelled out to Tony. She's like, Tony, and he handed her the mic and he said, what's going on for you? And she said, oh my gosh, you know, I'm 65 years old and I've been a highly successful lawyer, but I've had 3 divorces. None of my children talk to me. But just at this moment, I've just realized that the reason I became a successful lawyer and made that path my own was because I felt that's who I needed to be in order to be loved and accepted by my father. And now at 65 years old, I feel so young. I feel so excited that I've got the whole rest of my life to live a life authentically to me. You know, and at that moment, like my limiting belief of being too old at 25, this woman who's 40 years on me, so grateful for how young she is, for how much she's got her whole rest of her life to live authentically and not even know what that is exactly, but discover it. You know, that was the moment that everything changed for me. And I knew, you know, it just so happened the day after that event was the final day I had to let my university know whether I was coming back for the next semester or not. I didn't, you know, I called them. I said, I'm not coming back. And, you know, it was only at that point that making that decision within was the most certainty I'd ever had, even though I didn't know where the hell I was going from that point. I just knew that I had to say no to the wrong path that was costing me, you know, my soul, really. It was ending up in distraction and wanting to go out and party and, you know, just taking my mind off anything. And basically all my greatest fears of what my family would say to me, they all came true, right? They all came true. My family told me, you're a failure. You have to finish what you started. You can't do this. They completely disconnected from me. My mum even deleted me off Facebook, didn't talk to me for months. At that time, you know, they were paying me a full-time wage to study and, you know, and go down this path of become the lawyer. But I didn't, you know, they really wanted me on that path. It was the easy path. But what I always say now is the easy path always becomes the hardest path in the long run, right? And we tend to outsource what we should do, outsource our fulfillment to other people. You know, the number one regret of the dying is I wish I had have had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one I felt was expected of me. And basically that's the short story of why I do what I do now, which is to help people to wake up from a life that's lived to the expectations of others and actually start to decide and uncover, you know, what the right path is. You know, become the human guinea pig of personal development, test things out, you know, discover what fits right for you. And basically that's what I do with my life. I used to travel a lot more than I could right now.
Recently.
But, you know, go and travel and go and, you know, immerse myself in personal development events of who's doing great stuff around the world, and use that on myself and work out what feels most valuable. I simplify, I systemize, I bring it all together, and I give people access to different tools for them to test so that they can get that clarity, get that direction, and start living authentically. So yeah, that's the,
Yeah.
I can fit it in. Yeah.
It's perfect, and there's so much there, and again, it's the message that really drew me to create this podcast, because what you've just told was a lot of it was my life story, but I was like 50 years old when I realized what you realized at 24. So that's why when you said you're too old, I was laughing, because I'm like, wow, I was like twice that age. And then you said about the 65-year-old. So again, it just shows that you are never too old, right? And originally, when I wanted to talk and help people with this sort of realizing that they can live their potential, that they can have dreams, my original program was Your Third Quarter, because it was based on me and sort of people going into their third quarter of their life. But then I started to look at it and think about it, and took it back through my life, and was trying to work out, like, where did this come from, these feelings that we had to settle and drift through life doing what we're doing, and realized as I went back, realized that it happens in our teenage years. And so that's why it's interesting when you say that, you know, you listen to your brother tell you which college degree to go for, you know, and that to me is that's the source of where, you know, I want to get the message to, is in those teenage years, so that they can understand what you and I have both gone through, to say, okay, let's do it now before we waste time, you know? So what would you say, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at sort of 16, 17, 18, when you were making that decision about what uni course to do? What would you say to yourself now?
Straight up, what just came to me was, listen to what you want, because I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to study psychology, and that's what I do really now. You know, I use personality psychology for the basis of what I for a lot of the work that I do when I'm working particularly with one-on-one clients. But what you said, I think, is so powerful, because between the ages of 0 to 7, we develop who we think we need to be to get that love from the person that, you know, we crave the most love from. And that's why I ask people watching this, like, really take the time to think about that. Like, who was the person in your life that you craved the most love from when you were growing up? Yeah. Usually it's the dad, because usually, as a general rule, the mother tends to give love a bit more unconditionally, and the father tends to go, hey, set a standard of your potential and live up to that, and then you get some appreciation. That's a general rule, but look at that. It might be a guardian, it might be a parent. That will give you real key in terms of who you are versus who you think you should be. And then basically the stage of being a teenager, what's that all about? It's about rebelling against the expectations. It's about creating the opportunity, the independence, the ability to decide for oneself and break free. And so what do we need at that time? We don't need another bunch of adults telling us what to do. We tend to need some options, some opportunities to maximize our potential and more so a trust and a belief in your ability to make decisions for yourself. Not people telling you what to do. You actually being encouraged to go, hey, test that out. Like, you know, try it out. Like, see what works for you.
Yeah, and I put it in the thing where I used to think up until recently and say, well, we're not taught how to think, we're just taught what to think. But actually, when I look at it now, we're actually taught not to think. We're just taught to go along with what we're told, right? And I think our parents and the school teachers and whatever, I don't think they're doing anything. It's not out of malice, it's out of love and caring for you, because they want to protect you. But actually what they're doing is that protection, or the intended protection, is actually harming us as youngsters, because we're not allowed or taught to think about what it is we truly want and who we are. So
Yep.
It's interesting, and again, you know, as we look at it now, the parents that are now have got teenage children, they were in the same boat, you know, because their parents taught them, so they don't know what they want to do, and they're in that sort of flux, and that's why the level of employee engagement is so low across the world, because people are in jobs that they really don't want to be in, but it's a wage, you know, and they don't want to risk their pensions and whatever to try something new. But what they end up doing then is living in regret, as you say, like what if, or if only, and so again, we got to get that message across. So you're doing a great job with that. You're doing it. You are.
I appreciate that, Chris, and same with you. It's so enlivening to my soul to have a conversation like this. And
right.
I think something you just said then really stood out to me, because this is the trap. You said something about you know, people wanting to get the wage, right? To look after their survival needs. And in the framework that I use to help and support people, and I use in my own life, is it's kind of a bit like, I'd love to see a bit more of what's on your shirt right now. The triangle that kick ass. I love it.
Yeah.
So if you vision you know, that triangle, that's where you're going. That's the maximized potential. You know, that's what we want to look for. But most people it's flipped upside down. Most people are defaulting into a life of mediocrity because they're just focused on their survival needs. You know, they're just focused on the wage, on getting by. They're stuck in drama in their lives. They're stuck in their limited self. And what they need to do is take care of that stuff that, you know, we all need to have our survival needs taken care of. We need to be able to get that sorted and then step on the shoulders of our survival needs to be able to transcend that and to actually access something more meaningful with our lives, to be growing and contributing in a way that's meaningful. And this is where I see a lot of people who might be in this audience, a lot of people who come to me, they might have the outward success, you know, but they're just lacking that fulfillment. And then like, well, I want that thing, I want that meaning, I want to be at the top of that triangle, right? Maximizing my potential. Why can't I get there? And the one thing that sticks out for me is Carl Jung said it, and I might butcher it, but you know, it's kind of that what you most need will be found where you least want to look. And basically what people miss is we can get into this positive personality development where we just, you know, don't worry about your bad negative emotions. Like, you get to choose your emotional state, get to choose that, jump forward into meaning, and, you know, be idealistic, which is great. We want to have somewhere articulated where we want to go. But what the problem is, and what holds people and sabotages their success and converting that triangle, you know, from here to here, is basically you've got to look at your patterns. You've got to look at what's limiting you. You've got to look at, you know, what's tripping you up, you know, and as I'm sure your audience knows, you know, 95% of your mind's capacity is in the subconscious. It's in all those different things that are your anchors from the past. And, you know, and that 5% is conscious. That 5% is trying to get the meaning. But have you taken care of the 95% that's actually determining the real course of your life? And one of the major things also you just mentioned then is, you know, how we're not taught to think, right? And I think that's part of our developmental evolution. We've got to understand and be taught how to think properly. And that's going to take some failures, you know, and we need that opportunity to fail, to fail forward. But then, you know, it gets to this point where we over rely on our mind's capacity. And where I've been focusing a lot of my own personal development over the last year in particular is coming back to our feelings, the wisdom of our emotions. That's another part of it. And I'm reading a great book right now by Jeff Brown, Soul Shaping. And I'm going to butcher this quote probably as well, but it's so good if I can get it across. But he says, you know, excessive analysis perpetuates emotional paralysis. So really what that means in simplified terms is stop avoiding your heart and
Yeah.
overthinking with your head, right? And
Yeah.
and so this is about creating balance so that we are making great decisions for ourselves. We are knowing how to think. We're knowing how to listen into the feelings that we have and trust their wisdom, so that we can transcend just basic survival and we can access, maximizing our potential. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point about using the emotions, and I've been studying a lot recently with a group, and we're talking about the energy that comes from within, right? And transmuting that energy through the heart with emotions to manifest it into what you want. And but it takes work, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people will say that they want change, but they don't necessarily want to change, right? So they want it, but do they really want it? Are they prepared to do the work to get there? Because I know you've invested like tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in your own personal growth right now, which you share with others. And, I've invested a lot of money too. And it's, what people need to understand is it's a journey, right? And that there, I think, is the difference between fulfillment and success, is that I was always in my career. I was a bit like that lawyer. I was successful in my career, but it was at the cost of my personal life, similar to her, because I was always chasing that goal, that success, which was reaching targets, and that's all a finite thing. So Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game in his latest book, which is phenomenal. If you haven't read it, it's definitely worth reading. But it's talking really in there. It's talking about what do you want to achieve? What's your cause? What's the purpose of your life, right? And so you're looking at that big picture rather than just what are the quick wins that you're looking to get, and understanding that when we're going for a purpose, we're going for a cause that is bigger than all of us, right? And we won't get there in our lifetime, but we should be creating a legacy that lives after us to take us there. We will fail, and as we fail because we're stretching, and as we stretching, we're learning new things. But it doesn't matter as long as you learn from it, right? And you keep going. So I did have one question. You mentioned when you when you dropped out of uni and pursued your personal growth, and your family didn't understand it. Mine didn't understand mine either. So again, we're kindred spirits there. How are they now? How do they react with your success that you've achieved now?
Great question. Yeah. So now, I mean, my mum, who I told you deleted me off Facebook, didn't talk to me for months, basically because she thought I'd been lying to her. She didn't realize I'd been deceiving myself, and being able to manage the external world. But she's my number one fan. I mean, she actually helps and supports me in my business now. So, and, my family, there's definitely still people in my family, particularly my, 95-year-old granny, who still doesn't quite get it, and that's okay. And then I've got one of my brothers, the one who picked my business degree for me. He's very, old school kind of engineer, white picket fence family, that sort of stuff, and he doesn't quite get it. So, but, he can respect that I'm on my own path. And my other brother, he's very entrepreneurial. He's an engineer, but he designs his own program. So we get to back and forth about, being entrepreneurs. And so, it's taken just reassurance. That's the key here, is when you get clear on what authentically inspires you, you actually become unshakable to all the things that your past self, who didn't have access to that clarity, was terrified. I couldn't even face the clarity of those answers beforehand, because my past self, before coming to that level of certainty, didn't have the courage to handle what it knew it was going to have thrown at it. What about for you? What was the experience for you?
Mine still don't understand. Mine were education. They were in education. And so, and again, my brother's an engineer, but my parents were both in education. My aunt and uncle were in education. My sister's a teacher. And so, again, it's different. But I think they understand that when they hear me talk about the things that I'm passionate about, they can sense that, and they can sense that energy. So, you know, they are coming to terms with it. Let's put it that way. I'm not as advanced as in my journey as you are, but again, I do this because I want to help other people. You know, that's my purpose. That's my why. I want to help other people to achieve what they want in life. And, you know, like every parent wants their children to have a best start in life and a better start than they had.
Yes.
The message I've got to get across, you want that. So now you've got to do the behaviors that will show that, right? Rather than just say it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, what allowed me to come to terms and be able to handle the ambush that I received was at that same event, having that clarity within myself. I realized my family just want me to be happy. That's
Yes.
what they want for me. It's just that they have this model of the world that you have to be that successful doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever. And I can show them a new realm. I just have to stay consistent. I have to just keep reassuring, and I have to know that I'm going to stay true to this, despite whether I have their support or not. And what you said just a moment ago was so key. It has to be something bigger than just you. If you connect to something that serves a grander mission, it no longer is about you and your failure or what people think about you. Yes, that stuff's going to come up for sure, but you've got something that pulls you through, like you said, that bigger picture before. And when it's something bigger than you, you can transcend it. You know, I did Facebook Lives I've been doing daily for the past over 3 years now. I had a short break, you know, when I went and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and now I just continue that. And I oftentimes get people reaching out to me and they say, you know, I really want to do this thing and I really want to do my first Facebook Live, but it's so scary and what should I do? And I just say to them, you know, it's bigger than just you, you know, and come from the heart, be authentic, be connected to why you want to do what you do. I know you mentioned Simon Sinek, you know, he's the man if you want to, you know your why, right? So to know your why, to know that it's something bigger than just you. And if you are trying to do something that's just about you and your ego, that's why you keep tripping up. You know, and you're meant to keep tripping up because you're meant to get those wake up calls to go, hey, it's not just about you. Yes, you know, you need to take care of yourself, but also what's the purpose of life? It's to contribute meaningfully. You know, it's to love deeply. It's all those things that are in connection with others. So
it is, and it's I'm just about to write a piece on the golden rule. You know, the golden rule is treat other people as you would want to be treated, right? And a lot of people live by that rule or quote that rule. And a little bit controversially, I'm sort of the opinion that golden rule is a fixed mindset, because it's all about you, because you're saying, I'll treat other people the way I want to be treated. And that's not how it should be, right? So the platinum rule, which is treat other people as they want to be treated, that to me is the message we want to get across. Because if you think about it, that's what our parents were doing. They were treating us like they would want to be treated, like go to school, get this degree, go and get this trade or this profession or whatever. But it's not about them, it's about you, right? And so that's what I want people to think about, and that's why, again, I've enjoyed so much our conversation today. And if people aren't following your Facebook Lives, they should be, because that's how I started connecting with you and listening to you. So it's good. But it's again, as a coach, a trainer, or a leader, whoever you are, a parent, it's not about you, it's about the other people, right? So, you know, Zig Ziglar would say, give other people what they want and you'll get everything you want. So it's not about you, it's about the other people. So I'm going to put your contact details in the show notes, Vanessa Jane. If you could just tell people, if they want to get hold of you, where's the best place to get hold of you?
Yeah, definitely Facebook. I do everything from just my personal Facebook page, and then I just put it across all my other platforms. So yeah, that's the easiest place. You can go to vanessajanepatrick.com is my website. But yeah, I'm most active on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and everywhere across the platforms and so forth. But you know, and YouTube, and also my own podcast, the Limitless Potential Show. I've just done a series recently on helping people specifically with self-connection during isolation, and had some great names like Dr. John Demartini, Jeff Brown, the author who I just mentioned as well, some other incredible souls. So, yeah, so, you know, get amongst that. Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly mention also, Chris, I really loved what you just shared just then, you know, with that golden rule transitioning into the platinum rule. I think that's super powerful. And I'm a big believer. Everything shifted for me in my life when I decided to take 100% responsibility for my own life and fulfillment. And I'm constantly getting those reminders and opportunities to just enforce that a bit more. And, you know, basically based on just what you shared, it's awesome, that platinum rule, to treat others how they want to be treated, but also you train others how to treat you. So, you know, to take 100% responsibility, that nobody is invited to, it will treat you in a way that you first didn't invite them to do. You know, so to take that 100% responsibility for how people are showing up and treating you, how are you training them to treat you? How are you treating yourself and role modeling that? I think it's a very powerful conversation, and I can't wait to see your blog about it. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate that. And so everybody listening, Vanessa Jane's in Melbourne and I'm in Orlando, so we had to coordinate times to make it work, because I think it's about a 15-hour time difference, something like that. It's quite.
I know when I actually went to my second Date with Destiny event in Florida, West Palm Beach, and I remember how much of a trek that was to get back home to Australia, like 3 flights or something, and like, you know, 30 hours of travel or something. So I know it's a long way. I don't know the specific time, but
All right, perfect. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it, and again, I look forward to following your success and continued growth. And again, I encourage everybody to do the same. So thanks for joining.
Likewise, Chris, and love what you're doing, and thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, such an awesome, soul-enlivening conversation. Much appreciated.
Perfect. You're welcome.